you know what this is. It's the Valley's most in-depth geeky weather forecast video, the Wednesday evening edition for the 10th day of February 2021. A little bit of snow to contend with out there this evening, which we're going to talk about in this video. I wanted to start off the top, though, with the dramatic increase in ice coverage on parts of the Great Lakes, including, most importantly for us, Lake Erie. Now, it's all pretty thin, but Lake Erie is now over 80% ice covered, and we're starting to see appreciable amounts of ice up over Lake Huron as well. The south shore of Lake Michigan, close to Chicago, has a fair amount of tenuous ice. But yeah, a dramatic change. Now, this happens sometimes in the winter season, but it's a little unusual to see this big of a jump. We are over 80% now of ice coverage on Lake Erie. It was just 4 days ago that the percentage was like 12. And it wasn't that long ago that it was under 10 and down in the single digits. So we've seen a really dramatic jump in the ice coverage on Lake Erie. Now, again, it's not all that thick in most of the basin. It gets a little thick on the western end, but on some of our local waterways or some of our local lakes, Mosquito Lake, for example, the ice can be 5-6 inches or more as far as the thickness goes right now. And it's only going to get thicker with the cold weather that we have coming up. All right, wintry mess off to our south. In fact, ice storm warnings in effect from eastern Arkansas right up the mid-Mississippi Valley and into the lower Ohio River Valley, into a lot of Kentucky. Winter weather advisories and winter storm warnings are out for far southern Ohio and southern Pennsylvania as well. Look at all that pink. That is not fun to see in places like Cape Girardeau and Paducah, Louisville, Lexington, and then as far north as Parkersburg, Marietta, seeing kind of a snow ice mix, and Charleston, West Virginia is getting in on the act. Closer to home, all of our snow is pretty light at this hour. Now, it is sticking because it's after dark, and as we've been talking about, even though our amounts are going to be pretty modest with this, with the temperatures as they are, and the fact that we're now past the daylight hours, yeah, we can see snow sticking. It doesn't look like much on the camera. You don't see a lot of snowflakes being caught on the camera, but you look at 422 across from Eastwood Mall here in Niles, and yeah, it looks a little slow. With plenty of untreated roadways still out there this evening across the valley. You've got to definitely take it easy and be careful. Every flake of this can stick because the air temperatures are in the lower 20s, and these are major thoroughfares. Road sensor temperatures getting down into the 20s on some of these major roads. So you know the neighborhood roads, the less traveled roads, the roads that don't get as much traffic and don't heat up as a result of that friction, they're going to be even colder than some of these major thoroughfares. We've got a few hours worth of this to get through, and then this will taper off towards midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., maybe some leftover flurries in some spots through the overnight, but the problematic light snow will be from about the time of this recording, about 7 p.m., through about midnight to 1 a.m. As far as accumulations go, this hasn't really changed much. Our thinking all along has been this is modest, but still impactful. Coating to an inch or two in a lot of places. Real small chance of 3, especially maybe down towards East Liverpool, but even that I think is really pushing, and I think about 2 will be the top end of the ranges. Pretty high snow to liquid ratios with this, so it can accumulate efficiently, and it's kind of that fluffy, dusty snow that again you can squeeze out a fair amount of snow out of very little liquid. The air mass is pretty dry. This is not the goopy wet stuff that we see a lot of times when it's 31 degrees and snowing. All right, as we head into the day Thursday, I think we're actually going to see some sun at times on our Thursday. And we've been talking about how the next round of light snow will be a possibility for Thursday night. The trends over the last 24 hours have definitely been farther to the south with this, so I think it won't be much more than flurries then for Thursday night, maybe first thing Friday morning. Friday, much like Thursday, will feature some sun. The sun angle is getting higher, it's getting stronger at this time of the year, but this is still a cold air mass, so we're going to have a hard time getting above 30 on Friday. All right, so we've been talking about the weekend system, of course, and I've been kind of advertising that this is not going to be a big deal, and I think that's still going to be true. This is basically a weak wave coming through the Great Lakes. You have some moisture trying to come up from the south, but this system's really not going to get its act together until it begins impacting the East Coast, and specifically into New England. For us, I think there'll be some light snow Saturday afternoon into Saturday night, but it's probably not much more than an inch or 2 or something like that. Pretty modest amounts once again, but especially after dark Saturday, we might have to watch out for some locally slick travel. All right, let's talk about the system for next week, because I think this has the chance of being the next big ticket weather item across our area, and this is specifically Monday night and into the day on Tuesday. As we go into Monday night, moisture will be approaching from the south. Now, it's going to be a cold day Monday. I've still got upper teens to around 20 in the daytime forecast for Monday. Fresh Arctic high pressure system is building across New England, supplying that fresh cold air. In the meantime, you have low pressure kind of attacking this cold air mass, and while there are model differences, as you would expect 6 days out, this run of this model, this is the European, is pretty aggressive, bringing that low right up the chute into that cold air, and isn't as passive, if you will, as some of the model runs, which would suggest this becomes more of an East Coast problem, and the Ohio Valley low is weaker. If this Ohio Valley low stays pretty strong, this could be, kind of a big ticket event with a thump of snow on the front end, and then, if it takes this kind of a track right up into Ohio like this, it's going to drag in enough warm air, especially aloft, that, there's probably going to be something other than snow falling from the sky on Tuesday if this track is right. Now, the European's been pretty consistent with this, but today's only Wednesday. We've got a long ways away. Or I should say we're a long ways away. We've got a long time to figure this out in the next several days. It'll be a pretty quick hitter, though. It's probably gone as we head into the day on Wednesday. What happens beyond that system? I think the pattern is going to start to relax as far as the harsh cold goes. It's not a blowtorch by any stretch. These are the temperatures compared to average on today's run of the European model. We're going to fast forward past that storm next week. You'll notice the deep purples start retreating back out to the west. We're not into the oranges and reds just yet, though, through Thursday and Friday, the 18th, 19th. This might be a little less cold, but it's certainly not warm. The pattern overall just is not going to favor much in the way of abnormal warmth, even though I think the pattern will become less cold. Here's the CFS, Climate Forecast System model. Last week to 10 days of February, there's still some blues and greens on the playing field here, but you'll notice our source region out across Canada is not as cold. You're starting to see some warm anomalies showing up in Canada. So the Arctic dump, once it's, fully discharged, if you will, it's not going to get a chance to really necessarily reload. And, you look at some of the teleconnections here, and this is getting into some pretty hardcore geeky stuff, but, we look at what's going on in the Arctic, what's going on in the weather patterns over the Pacific. This is the Euro model Arctic oscillation. Anytime the Arctic oscillation is strongly negative, as it has been for quite a while, that favors colder than average temperatures in the east, all things being equal. You'll notice, though, as we head through time, this gets up to neutral territory for a while on today's run of the European, which is a good indication that the cold is going to start to ease. Again, we got to be careful with our expectations here. It's not exactly a blowtorch-looking pattern. You look out over the Pacific, the EPO, the Eastern Pacific Oscillation, when it's negative, that favors cold in the east as well, and it's going to get out of the negative territory and more into a positive phase as we go into the second half of February. Another sign that, indeed, the cold may be, once it completely flushes out and gets it out of its system, we're unlikely to see it reload to the kind of intensity that we're going to experience in the next several days. Not only here locally, but across most of the country, east of the Rockies especially. I mean, especially Texas. This is going to be a big, big story this weekend. In places like Houston, places that just aren't used to cold, they're going to have some pretty severe cold and probably some snow and ice issues as well. Places that don't have the infrastructure to deal with that kind of cold and snow and ice. So we're going to keep a close eye on that during the coming days. Again, our next big ticket weather item is about 6 days away, it looks like, at this point. Thanks for watching tonight's weather for Weather Geeks. I'll have an update on tonight's snow coming up tonight on 21 News at 11, and I'll see you back here on Thursday.